How many tenses are there in English? What? Do I need to know, like, all of them? Is there any logic to forming these tenses? Are some tenses more important than the others? Just how do I know when to use which tense? If you have ever asked yourself any of these questions, this video is for you. We will walk you through all the English tenses, and Hollywood will be our guide. Are you ready? In modern English, there are 12 tenses that are used. That can sound quite intimidating, since most probably in your native language you use 3 to 6 tenses. But don't worry just yet, there is method to this madness. Let's have a look at this table. English has 3 basic tenses: the present, the past, and the future. And each tense in its turn has 4 aspects: simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. And we are going to have a close look at each and every one of them.
So let's do this thing!
Past simple is really straightforward in terms of use. Utilize it for any event or process that finished in the past and has no connection to now. The formation is not that easy though. For regular verbs, add ed. This part is simple. Played, walked. But for irregular verbs, you need to remember the second form of the verb from the second column of the irregular verb list.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
By the way, do you remember the very first movie clip we saw for present simple in our video? Let's see what the girl replies to Tom Cruise.
You complete me. And I just had...
Shut up. Just shut up. You had me at hello. You had me at hello.
How touching. Just in case you never heard that phrase before, you had me at, that means I was already persuaded, you didn't need to do anything else. As you can see in both of the examples that we have seen for past simple, irregular verbs were used, sad and had. So yes, irregular verbs are that common and you do need to study them. So no hack work, there are some links in the description box below for you to study irregular verbs in more detail. For the negative form, use didn't and the base form of the verb. This didn't is the past simple now, so that returns the main verb to its base form. Listen to Leo DiCaprio in this clip.
How did you do it, Frank? How did you cheat on the bar exam in Louisiana?
I didn't cheat. I studied for 2 weeks and I passed.
If you were attentive, you also noticed a question in past simple in this last movie clip that we saw.
How did you do it, Frank? How did you cheat on the bar exam in Louisiana?
What we need to do to make a past simple question is add did in front of the subject and again return the main verb to its base form. Here are several more examples of questions from a movie that a lot of people name as their favorite, The Shawshank Redemption.
Why'd you do it?
I'm innocent, Red. Just like everybody else here.
What was his name?
What'd you say?
Finally, the same as with present simple, in past simple, the verb to be has a separate set of forms. We say I, he, she, it was, and you, we, they were.
I am mortal. You are elf-kind. It was a dream, Maguire. Nothing more.
So this is our story. For we were soldiers once. And young.
A small note here. Please make sure you don't pronounce the word were as where. That's what many students do. Where is a question word or a relative pronoun which is about location. But were is the past simple form of to be for you, we, they. So let's say this word together to make sure we pronounce it correctly. Were, were, were. Now for some good news. The verb to be only has separate forms in present simple and past simple. In all other tenses, it behaves just like any other verb, just like a usual mortal verb. Past simple is hereby handled. Next stop, past continuous. Past continuous is used for actions that were in progress at a particular point in time in the past or for a particular period of time in the past. To form it, use was, were, plus the verb with the ing ending.
Wasn't doing anything. I mean, I've got allergies.
A little ostentatious, don't you think?
What was I thinking? You're usually so discreet.
You see, past continuous is easy peasy. Check. Past perfect comes in handy whenever you are talking about an event that happened before another event in the past or before a particular point in time in the past. I know what I said just now may sound a bit crazy to you, so let's have a look at several examples.
And now, after 20 years, public pressure had forced the government to shift the aliens out of Johannesburg. They had had enough, and they wanted District 9 to be moved and more intensively policed and controlled.
So, we each had 3, that's 6. What about the 7th day? I want ascending bowel cancer.
The girl had done her homework.
No, I want bowel cancer.
So, as you can see, the formula for past perfect is had, irrespective of the person, plus past participle, or the third form of the verb, the very same form we were using in present perfect. Now let's talk a little bit more about the use of this tense. Whenever I cover it with my students, all of them ask me the same question. Is it actually necessary to use past perfect, or can I do without it? The answer is you can. Past perfect is a narrative tense, which means that we use it for telling stories. So whenever the events in the story that you are telling are chronological, it means you are telling the events of the story in the order that they happened. In this case, you don't need to use past perfect. But whenever you break that chronology, that's when you need past perfect to show the listener or the reader which event came earlier. Let's have a look at one more example which I like to give to my students when I present this topic to them. I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I had breakfast, I got dressed, and I went to work. And when I was on the bus, I suddenly remembered that I had seen a really bad dream. So as you can see in this story, I mentioned seeing a dream not when it actually happened, but much later. That's why it's logical to use past perfect. Now let's change the story a little bit and let's avoid past perfect altogether. So what you would say is, I saw a really terrible dream, then I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I had breakfast, I got dressed and went to work. So as you can see in the second variant of the story, the order of events is chronological. Therefore, I avoided using past perfect. And that's the same thing you can do. The only problem is that actually usually when we tell a story, we do forget to say something and then we get back to it. So as a result, in practice, most probably you will need to use it, but here grammar books give us a loophole. Grammar books say that if you use after or before, which are sequencing words, you actually don't need to use past perfect. One last thing to note about past perfect is that it's very frequently used with time phrases containing by. That's when it's used to emphasize that something happened or didn't happen before another point in time. Let's have a look at this example. By the time he turned 40, Leonardo DiCaprio hadn't won a single Oscar despite many great roles that he had played. Past perfect, done, done, done. Past perfect continuous is very similar to past perfect, but it describes a process or an activity before a point in time in the past. Similarly, we only use it when the chronology of our story is broken and we want to emphasize that a process had happened before something else or by some point in time.
Why did you do that?
Why? I've just been doing some reading, I guess. I thought it'd be cool.
To form past perfect continuous, string had, been, and the verb with the ing ending together. Now I would like to give you another example of past perfect continuous that will also serve as a test. We are going to hear a story from The Dark Knight. Try to identify as many narrative tenses as you hear there. Now, to remind you, narrative tenses are mostly past tenses like past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. So listen carefully and let's see if you can identify all the narrative tenses in this story.
A long time ago, I was in Burma. My friends and I were working for the local government. They were trying to buy the loyalty of tribal leaders by bribing them with precious stones. But their caravans were being raided in a forest not far from Rangoon by a bandit. So we went looking for the stones. But in 6 months, we never met anyone who traded with him. One day, I saw a child playing with a ruby the size of a tangerine. The bandit had been throwing them away.
So why steal them?
Well, because he thought it was good sport. Because some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Now, let's have a look at the passage and let's see if you were able to find all of the past forms. Here are all of the forms that were used in past simple. There was lots of past continuous here. And of course, we had one form that was past perfect continuous. Well done to all of you. We've got all the past tenses in the bag. Now, the future.